What are 5 subjects that you could talk about for 30 minutes without preparation? In this series, we have people talk about one of 5 different subjects for half an hour. Each lecturer is not told which subject we selected in advance. The timer begins when we tell them the subject. We have a panel to ask them questions, either to ask more details, encourage them, or distract them with banter. This is 30 minutes, no prep. For today, we have Kat Sidhe, an event producer who specializes in immersive experience design. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
for being here.
The topics that you submitted to us are the hazards of pop psychology on social media, how fiction that depicts sexual assault can be cathartic for survivors and it isn't always a bad thing, the synergy between gamers, LARPers, and experiential marketing, the ways in which modern scientific discoveries are turning paradigms on their heads for everything we thought we knew about prehistory and natural history, and patient experience-centered treatment for behavioral health for and neurodivergent folks, and then a 6th bonus topic, what the hell is going on in the SEA? So what was your logic in selecting or submitting these topics?
These are topics that I have been posting about on social media a lot frequently, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback in the comment section when I have written kind of long form posts, short form essays on social media. And so it seemed like they were areas that I've already given a lot of thought to. There seems to be an audience and a demographic who are interested in these topics. You guys were so generous to invite me to your platform here. I thought maybe I could get some of this information out there wider than just my own reach.
Absolutely, and we look forward to hearing what you talk about.
We're going to cheat because you mentioned a topic to us that is not submitted, but we're going to go with it anyway. The topic for you is putting together a dating profile for geek men.
Yes, I think this is something that I have spent a lot of time. So I'm so glad to be doing it here.
All right, so you have 30 minutes. Your panel for today is going to consist of Eric Whalen and Chris Montgomery. Chris, please come on in. And when Eric presses the timer, their 30 minutes will begin.
Wait, are you single?
No.
Yeah, I was about to say. It's like I think I remember the.
It's still interesting.
Oh yeah, no, you have a great perspective to provide. So, without further ado, here's the timer. Ready, set, there we go.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen of the panel. So who am I to talk about this? I guess I am an AFAB person, identify as non-binary. I am also pansexual. So I have dated my share of geek men throughout my 20s and early 30s. I'm not currently single, but I've been through kissing a lot of frogs. And I've been through basically all of the dating apps, more so than I'd like to admit, but here I am talking about it publicly for the world. And my day job is actually as an analyst. So I can't help but analyze what I'm seeing. And over the last 15 years of me using online dating apps, seeing the shifts and the trends and seeing what people are doing wrong and what people are doing right. And of course, this is all my own personal opinion of like what I'm looking for when I'm looking at a, straight male geek's dating profile. Who am I looking for? And I don't pretend to represent the entire demographic of like who you guys might be looking for. But as a, AFAB single nerd, at the time when I was looking at these profiles, I was the demographic. So I can tell you, like, from that perspective, here's what's good, here's what's bad. So the thing that I want to start off with is that do not be afraid to be different. Do not be afraid to be quirky. Do not be afraid to be yourself. It is the only thing that will get you noticed. If you are just like everyone else, there's absolutely no reason for them to message you. And that's just like the most fundamental thing throughout all of the rest of the nuance of what I'll be discussing. Always keep that in mind, is that the person who's right for you wants to know your most authentic self. Trying to pretend to be someone else, trying to pretend to be, fit in more homogeneously with the larger society, that's not going to serve you. Because if you have the mindset of nobody wants me, I should pretend to be or form myself into fitting the mold of what they want, it's not going to work. Because even if it gets you through the door, even if it gets you to the first date, the second date, eventually they're going to figure out who you actually are. And no one likes feeling like they were, like a bait and switch or like a catfish situation. So if you really want like lasting romance, you really want a partner in crime, you really want someone that's going to be a serious relationship, you have to be yourself. You have to be the most authentic version of yourself. And that includes being brutally honest with yourself about parts of who you are and how you function in relationships that you might not want to wear on your sleeves or acknowledge. Because how can someone get to know you and know if you're right for each other unless you're completely transparent and honest with who you are? So that needs to lead every decision you make when you're making your profile.
Now, when you say, don't be afraid to be different, in fact, you should be different, are we talking different from the stereotype of dude on dating site? Or do you need to go do research and see is there an average dude that I need to go find?
So, great segue. One of the things I've recommended to my male friends who have come to me for dating advice is that it's a great exercise. And this is not even just necessarily limited to like single men who are trying to date, but just men in general. Like I implore all of you to do this. Make a fake dating profile as a woman.
Oh.
Yep.
Because you will learn things about misogyny, about feminism, about what the experience of being a woman on a dating site is by seeing how men talk to you when they think you're a girl.
Yeah. I can confirm in 2010, when I was in undergrad, I did something very similar with Plenty of Fish back when it wasn't full of bots. And I have to say, it works. Get a sense of the female perspective.
Okay, so I'm going to write down endure some trauma here. Okay.
Oh, but make sure if you are going to do that type of catfish, make sure that you actually have like a female friend first, and what is it, ethically?
Just generally a good idea to have female friends.
But like ethically source your account pictures. Don't use AI and don't use something you stole from someone else, because
Yeah, and the point of this exercise isn't to catfish. You're not trying to hurt someone. You're not trying to mislead anybody. It's just so that basically you can see what the experience is for the other half, in terms of how people talk to them, how people behave when you give a soft no or a hard no, and what that looks like in practice, so that you can understand, why are people afraid of telling me no? It's like, well, because look at these 9 other men who freak out when you do. And it's a really great teaching tool. And it's also a way for you to see what other straight men's profiles look like, so you can kind of assess the competition, as it were, and say like, okay, it'll only take you a few hours of scrolling to see that there's a lot of trends of profiles that look exactly the same, and you'll start to see, if you have an analytical brain like me, okay, there's this type of guy, and there's this type of guy, and there's this type of guy, and who am I? Where do I fit in these types? In my opinion, if you don't fit into any of them, that's the best kind of profile. But if you do fit into them, like maybe there is a type of like millennial gamer nerd who is operating in these kinds of spaces and has this profile of interests. And maybe that is the type you fit into, but how do you stand out from every other guy who's, I like anime and music and pizza? Like, sure, man. Like, I like breathing and sleep. Like, but like, who are you?
Well, I caught this fish one time.
Yeah, that's I was saying earlier. They caught some of our pre-recording banter, that some of the tropes that are, I promise you, men, all your female friends and love interests, we talk about this all the time. We joke about this all the time. There's certain tropes on dating profiles, and it's your pit bull or French bulldog. It's
Specifically,
it's
apparently.
there's a type of guy in Los Angeles, and they all have either a pit bull or a French bulldog, one or the other, and it's in every one of their profile pictures. And if you've ever been a woman on a dating site, you know. And a lot of them are producers. And a lot of them spend a lot of time at the gym. So if you keep scrolling past the pit bull / French bulldog / English bulldog sometimes, you'll get a picture of them in gym shorts and a tank, probably with like a nerdy logo, hopefully, or just like a plain gray one that's like needs to be washed, not so great. At the gym. Oh, look. They work out. Cool. Did you really need to use one of your 5 photo slots to show me that you have a gym membership? Like, is that essential enough to your personality that you needed it to be one of the top 5 things I know about you? Because if that's the case, it's not going to work out. I'm not going to go to the gym with you. So I don't know why you're broadcasting that. And I think a lot of men psychologically think that they're communicating, I care about my health. I care about my fitness. I can pick you up. They're trying to like show some kind of bravado that makes them feel masculine that they think women are looking for. And some women might be looking for that. But geek men, your women aren't looking for that. They're not. They're not looking for a gym buddy. They're not. If you're taking a picture in a gym mirror as a selfie, like, hey, don't. But if you're going to, you better have a really funny gym shirt with a great pun on it. Because, like, that's the thing that we're going to want to start a conversation. We're not going to be like, hey, do you go to the 24-hour fitness in North Hollywood? Like, I don't care. But is there a Jigglypuff on your shirt? That's cool. I care way more about that. And I think another one of the tropes, as you mentioned, was fishing, is that a lot of men's profiles have pictures of them with giant fish. And like, you know what? Make that your Facebook profile. Post that on Instagram. Don't put that on your dating profile. We don't care about the size of the bass you caught. Like, come on. And the thing that I really want to get into is that most of what the early online dating was very much text profile based and answering questions that gave you a match score so that you could find true compatibility. So like eHarmony and a lot of the other paid sites talk a lot about their algorithms. OkCupid, which is for a long time was sort of the only real contender in the free site market that could compare to things like eHarmony, had a great algorithm system and a great question system and like super robust profiles. And that's why it was kind of the site of choice for a lot of people that have kind of counterculture interests to find each other, especially queer, polyamorous, people that are involved in the kink world. It was like a free place for weirdos to find each other. And it's definitely still that way for geeks. But a lot of the functionality of that site has gone away as sites like Tinder, or apps, I should say, like Tinder and Hinge and Bumble have gotten more popular. OkCupid has kind of nerfed some of the things that made it so good to try to adhere more to that format of all of the swiping apps and have it be more picture-based and swiping. I personally hate it. I feel like it reduces a person into what they look like, and it makes dating very shallow, where you don't necessarily give someone a chance unless they happen to catch your eye in the photos. But because that's the world and the paradigm we live in now, my best advice is utilize those photos. Is if someone is only going to look at maybe 1, 2, 3, 5 tops pictures of you before deciding whether to actually look more deeply into your profile, you need to communicate who you are and why they should be interested and intrigued to get to know you better, at least long enough to read your profile in those pictures. So like, don't use a headshot. don't use a selfie. Don't use a mirror bathroom selfie, please. Communicate who you are a little bit in these pictures. Like, I don't want to just know what you look like. I want to know, what do you care about? How do you spend your time? Maybe like, who are your friends? And like, yeah, dogs are great. Hopefully it's not a pit bull or a bulldog. But like, you know what? They're great too. I don't hate pit bulls or bulldogs. But like, if you want to be the guy that has the picture of your pit bull and or bulldog with you, like, put a fun costume on him. Like, why is your dog cooler than every other dog? And yeah, so like what I was saying earlier to Chris before we started recording was that if you think of those pictures at the top of your profile being like a 3-panel webcomic where you're telling the story of who you are and why someone should date you, and think of it that way. So like, what are you expressing with how you're standing, your expression, what you're wearing, what's your setting, what are your activity? You're saying so much about yourself that way, and like put some thought into it, the same amount of thought that you would put into whatever you're typing and writing in your profile. Because unfortunately, the world we live in 2024, a lot of people screen just based on those pictures. And this is actually ties into something that I was talking to Eric about when he first started doing these GeekPublic broadcasts. I commented to him that I didn't really see any of his personality, which is a glowing, amazing personality. Eric's one of my best friends. I wasn't getting any of his personality through his wardrobe and the recording sessions. And so I was like, hey, like, what can we do to like put something on you that says more about who you are than just like a solid color t-shirt? So I got him that shirt, and he's wearing it now, and I'm so happy.
Scaring it away. It's a wonderful shirt. No, we take your feedback here at GeekPublic. To plug the channel in a second, yes.
So, but like that's the kind of thing that like if I were to go outside and take a picture of him for his dating profile in that shirt, then somebody would see like, oh, he likes Studio Ghibli. Now there's something I know about this person. Maybe I like Studio Ghibli. Maybe I'm obsessed with No Face. Maybe I cosplayed No Face at Anime Boston 12 years ago. And that's something I can now talk to this person about. It's not just, okay, here's a face. Do I like this face? Do I not like this face? Am I attracted to this person? Am I not attracted to this person? Now you know something about them. So that's what my main points are. Make your profile different and interesting. And the best way to make sure that it's different is to go incognito and see what everyone else's looks like. Make sure that you're being authentically yourself, that you're not trying to broadcast a different person, a different lifestyle, a different personality than is accurate for the life you're currently living. It's like aspirational goals are great and all, but you can't try to like woo someone based on, I want to be this guy someday. Like, who are you now? And then just really, I don't know, it's hard out there. Like, dating's hard. It's not easier for us than it is for you. I know some people think that maybe it is, that like, oh, I send out 300 messages and only one gets back to me and then they ghost me. But like, it's not easier on the other side, because we're dealing with like death threats and harassment and like all kinds of crazy stuff on our side of things. That is part of what goes into why there's so much suspicion. And I think the best way to bridge that gap for people that are genuinely good people trying to make a connection with other genuinely good people is to just come as authentic as possible. Don't be afraid to let your freak flag fly. Don't be afraid to be a weirdo. And, you know, be able to step back and say, am I afraid to tell this person I'm talking to this truth about myself because I think they're going to reject me? But if this is something that's true for you and they would reject you for it, they're going to reject you eventually, period. So, like, there's no reason to hold back and be afraid to be open with it, because you're just prolonging your own hurt. That, like, if they're not right for you, they're not right for you. And the only way to find the person that is to just like keep pounding the drum of who you are as an individual.
So when you say you let your freak flag freak flag fly. Is there an easy for me to say? There's an element of, because I think there could theoretically at least be room for something that you don't want to share with everybody, or something that you do want to keep to yourself. Mm-hmm. Is there room, or can you think of any subjects or topics or sort of signs that would make sense for not putting on in the first 5 photos and trying to sort of keep back to reveal to somebody later? Or is that something that's just going to lead to disappointment and hurt in the long term?
Well, I mean, there's things like, I think we all have baggage and trauma, sometimes from our childhood, sometimes from past relationships. And like, those are things that enter into the relationship conversations. You don't necessarily lead with that on your dating profile. You don't necessarily talk about that on your first date. But maybe you've been divorced and you have a kid. That's really something you should have up front on your dating profile. Like and like maybe don't have a picture of your kid in your profile because there's weirdness with like photos of children on the internet. But like do something to acknowledge that like you're a parent and that's important to you, or whatever it is that's important to you. Like I'm a door-to-door salesman and I travel 6 months of the year. Like someone's going to want to know that. Like that could be a deal breaker for someone. So having anything that's potentially a big deal breaker right up front is going to spare you pain. Because if somebody's not interested in you, you want them to self-sort and self-filter before you're even involved in the conversation. There's something that an older friend of mine gave me some advice once when I was going through a breakup, and I was being extremely histrionic about it, as you do in the first 24 hours after a breakup. And she said, rejection is God's protection. And of course, my little like 28-year-old brain was immediately like, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. Blah, blah, blah. Like, what a gross, awful idiot. Blah. But like over the years, as I've kind of sat with that and reflected on it, if you take the religion out and just look on the surface of what is trying to be communicated there, you're not doing yourself any favors by trying to prevent someone else rejecting you. Like if they're gonna reject you, do it quick and then keep moving.
Fail fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Fail faster. Yeah.
And I think I kind of
viable partner.
And I
MVP, baby.
Yeah, because like it's not, like for me, I had a rough childhood. I had some childhood trauma, and I do try to kind of broadcast that pretty openly and wear that on my sleeve, because if someone isn't interested in having a relationship with me based on that, then I want them to know that ASAP so that they can get out of the way for the person that would want to. And like, obviously like don't settle. It's hard when you're lonely, but if you settle, then when the right person comes along, you're partnered. And then someone's going to get hurt. So like, it's really just about shedding all of the trappings of society and all the boxes they put us in, allowing yourself to like freely self-define yourself. That was a lot of selves, but you know what I mean? And allowing the right people to find you. And now that we live in this internet day and age where there's so many interest groups, Reddit threads, Meetup, all these ways that we can find the people that are like us. You can't hide who you are, because then the right person can't find you. So, and I would say that that advice that I got from my friend, which, hey, Darlene, that advice that I got from my friend helped me figure out that as I continued on my journey of like, kissing a bunch of frogs and trying to find the right person for me, not that they were bad people, like frogs, not an insult. They just weren't my people. Every relationship I was in got shorter progressively than the one before it. And that's not a failure. That means that I was able to figure out faster this wasn't the right person. And the other little bit of dating advice that I say a lot to my friends when they're experiencing turmoil in their relationships is every relationship ends in either death or a breakup. So don't look at breakups as meaning that the relationship failed. that there's only one way it could go unless that's the person that you spend the rest of your life with. And once you find the person you spend the rest of your life with, then you're done. You spend the rest of your life with them. So like every relationship up to that point and that person is a learning experience that you can use to help figure out, what do I want in a relationship? What do I offer to a partner? How can I improve and be a better partner? And I feel like some people focus on how can I attract the kind of partner I want. It's not about attracting. It's about becoming. You're not trying to convince someone that you're who they're looking for. You just have to be who they're looking for. And if you're not who they're looking for, then that's not your person. And like, it's easy to say this from my point of view as someone who is happily partnered currently, but like, I've been through it. Like it took me a while to get here. I'm not young. But it really is worth waiting for the right person. Like if I had settled when I was younger for someone that I thought was the love of my life, and I just accepted that there was going to be a lot of conflict and a lot of fighting, and I thought that's just like what love and relationships are, then I'd be with the wrong person now, and I wouldn't have ever even met the current partner who's like the love of my life.
So on the subject of trying to find those breakups faster and timing, does it make sense for people to jump right onto a dating app after a breakup? Do you have a sense of that kind of, like, is there
No.
You gotta ask.
So story time.
Yeah.
One of my exes is somebody who had been in a long-term relationship with his like high school sweetheart for most of his young adulthood into his mid-20s. And as soon as that relationship was over, he immediately jumped onto OkCupid, and that's how I met him. And he wasn't really forthright of how recent the breakup was and how serious the relationship had been and how long the relationship had been. So like it was like a yellow flag for me. I was like, okay, but you're cool now, right? Like you're ready for a relationship with someone new? And his response was basically like, oh yeah, well that relationship was dead for a long time. We stayed in it way longer than we should have. And it was long dead. This was just the official breakup end date, but like I'm totally over it. I've totally moved on. He had not. Make sure you've done the internal work with a therapist if you can afford one. If you can't, there's actually a lot of free and sliding scale therapy options out there if you sit down and do some Google research. Do the work to make sure you're actually ready for the next relationship, because if you're not, you're hurting someone. You're hurting this person that you say you care about, who might be the love of your life, who might be your future wife, but you're bringing all this baggage from your past relationship with you. And you can't treat a relationship as the way to fix what's wrong in your life. You've got to be a whole, complete person and then bring that into a relationship. So it's a partnership and not a codependency. Do you have any other questions, panelists?
I feel like I've been monopolizing the questions. So I'm going to give you a chance.
Opening messages. So I've never figured out what the real expectation is, because often I'll put in a lot of enthusiasm and thought into a message and never hear back, and that's not really sustainable.
It just means you haven't found the right person yet.
Yep.
You're not doing it wrong. The right person will appreciate the effort you're putting in.
Because I definitely have been on the other side where either women will message me first and go, hey, and leave me to come up with a thoughtful message, or I don't know what there's some missing link, I feel like, in the expectation there.
So I'll say, I don't mean this to be an insult to people for whom text communication is not necessarily their strong suit or forte, but someone whose first message to you is just hey or hi or like a smiley face, probably not your person. Probably don't spend a lot of time there. If they genuinely can't think of anything to say when presented with the totality of you other than hi, are they going to be a stimulating conversationalist for the rest of your life? Like, I'm I don't mean this is an insult to people who start with hi, but if you start with hi, stop. Don't do that. It's the conversational death. Like it doesn't give you anything to build off of. Like find something in the profile or in the pictures to talk about and have an actual conversation. And men, don't lead with a comment on the woman's physical appearance. Don't. Don't. 90% of the messages we get are, I love your eyes. I love your smile. You're so beautiful. Cool. What do we say to that? You can either say thanks, in which case you're like, come across a little vain, like, thanks, I know. Do something like humble and deflecting it, like, oh no, I'm not pretty, which is awful. Or change the subject and make a conversation on our own that you haven't participated in yet. Just don't. Like, if you're messaging us, we already know you think we're cute. If you didn't think we're cute, you wouldn't be messaging us. Like, let's be honest here. If you see someone and they're not cute, you're not going to send them a message. It doesn't need to be said. You don't need to start talking about especially physical attributes about the person that they can't change. Like skin tone, big no-no. I have dated plenty of men who excessively told me how much they enjoyed my pale skin. And I was just like, okay, you're starting to sound like a serial killer. Let's talk about my skin less. So yeah, like it's one thing if you're in an established relationship, of course people like to hear that they're pretty, but don't lead with that. Say something about the person. Say something about something that they chose, like, oh, that's a great shade of lipstick is much safer than I like how full your lips are. You know, like don't talk about physical attributes they can't change. Talk about decisions they made, choices they made, things that they said they're interested in. And that doesn't mean there's not room down the line to like appreciate their physical form. But when you talk about our bodies, that's literally the definition of objectification. Don't talk about our bodies, talk about our words, our deeds, our decisions, what makes us who we are. Because we are not our bodies, we're our persons.
You're here.
You're here.
Oh, okay. 30 more seconds. Okay.
Like 20 seconds.
I don't know. Do you guys have any other questions?
Not in 20 seconds, I don't. I don't know.
Okay, so recap. If you're going to have dogs in your pictures, they better be wearing like clown suits. I want like a unicorn horn. I want fairy wings. I want something to tell me why your dog needs to be in this photo other than just it's a dog. Stay away from fish. Stay away from any kind of mirror selfie. No mirror selfies. And if you're going to use a mirror, which you shouldn't, because you have on your phone like the ability to reverse the camera. You don't need the mirror, but at least clean it. I don't want to see toothpaste flecks on it. And just like think of it as a pitch deck. Like you're selling yourself. You're selling the experience of being in a relationship with you. And that should be more than just hi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.